everybody to close their eyes really quick, just because it's been a really busy day. Just take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And the first thing I want you to do is just thank yourself for being here. We're very busy women. It's hard to give yourself permission and grace and space to be here. And the next thing I want you to do is just think of something that you're grateful for. And then as you open your eyes, we'll begin. So I recently experienced that, like I said, at a conference that I was just at. And it was really funny because it was this amazing conference full of women, much like yourselves. And it was empowering and wonderful. And then I get out to my car and I noticed the very large tire of my SUV didn't quite look like it did when I arrived. And I was like, okay, I've been in a room all day, surely that's not right. Get inside, you can now, thanks to technology, press the little button, it tells you whether or not you're imagining things. I was not. Said it was at 15. And I was like, okay, that's not, the rest are 32. That's not, this is one of these things is not like the other. So I quickly Ubered myself home, told my husband, and he was like, we'll deal with it later, because he was on his way home from an Alabama tour with our son, and I was like, all right, I'm out. And so I got home, and by the time I arrived home, I realized my garage door opener and the entrance to our house was in the car 35 miles away. Totally fine. I have keys, never used them. One of these surely works, right? So I finally, I don't know, the 15th key or something, you'd think I was a janitor, opened the door. And I thought, what an interesting illustration for life, right? We're all trying to get into doors and trying to open our own doors sometimes. Some of those doors aren't open. Some of them we have to open ourselves. And yet, often too, maybe we just don't have the right tools to open those doors. So about a year ago, I was interviewed as a business leader, an owner, about my career. I've spent 25 years in corporate HR and recruitment, both in education, healthcare, and global manufacturing. And I opened my business 3 years ago to serve more people. And I was asked how I best navigate my path and my journey to success and to help others with it. And the acronym that kept coming up to me was PATH. And the way that I now navigate is through purpose, action, talents, helping one another to find hiring excellence. And I found that whether you're doing that with a partner, as a friend, a job, whatever it is, if you can always identify and follow those 4 things, you're gonna pretty much find the success and the fulfillment that you've sought after and that you desire. So here with me today, first is my dear colleague, Danielle Bateman-Grando. She serves as the Chief Marketing Officer for Midwest Bank Center, St. Louis's second largest privately owned local bank. Danielle is a marketing and strategy leader versed in working with organizations that transition points and helping them scale for growth. She is accomplished at developing and executing integrated marketing and sales strategies through a data-driven mindset. Her priority industry experience includes investment banking in the oil and gas sector, private wealth management, casinos, and hard discount grocery. She obtained her MBA from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania with a concentration in marketing, strategy, and entrepreneurship. She received her BSBA from Washington University here in St. Louis, magna cum laude, with majors in finance and accounting. Danielle is celebrating her 10-year anniversary. Woo! Milestone, baby. This year, and has a son who's 9, a daughter 6. She enjoys golfing, reading, skiing, spending time at the lake and the family farm. Next is Manisha Shiordi. She serves as the Executive Director of Technology Operations and Global Marketing at Reinsurance Group of America. We all know it as RGA. RGA is the only Fortune 500 company in the world that exclusively focuses on life and health-related reinsurance solutions with presence across 6 continents and 100 countries. RGA has approximately $3.4 trillion of life reinsurance in force assets and $84.9 billion, and singular purpose to make financial projection accessible to all. Most recently, she joined the marketing leadership team at RGA and is involved with a variety of exciting projects, such as a brand refresh initiative, MarTech transformation, and regional marketing enablement. She has spent the last 24 years of her career focusing on product technology, customer advocacy, people leadership, and enablement. She has contributed across healthcare, crop science, and finance industries, largely in the innovation space. She grew up in India, where she obtained her engineering degree and started her technology career. In 2000, she moved to the United States and has been a St. Louis resident since 2002. She obtained her master's in computer science at the University of Missouri, St. Louis, and has worked at several local corporations, including BJC, Bayer Crop Science, and now RGA. She has a deep passion for developing emerging talent and gives back through volunteering at the Arch Grants, Venture for America, St. Louis Tech LX programs, as well as a variety of outreach initiatives. She too has a husband and 2 boys, 17 and 12, and a beloved dog named Leo, who's 4. I'm glad you know that. My dog maybe just had a birthday. No idea how old he is. She enjoys hiking, traveling, hosting events for friends and family, and most of all, watching her boys play sports. And Shayla Ford is an architect and curator of transformational experiences. She leverages her gifts to inspire others to discover and pursue their unique calling by equipping individuals to lead where they live, learn, work, play, and worship. With a heart for women and girls, she creates brave spaces for authentic connection, building community while cultivating confidence. A nonprofit leader with over 20 years of experience, Shayla has held leadership roles with the WYCA Metro St. Louis and the NCAACP National Office. She is the Director of Leadership Programs at Focus St. Louis and is the principal of GSI Consulting. Shayla is a lifelong learner committed to becoming the best version of herself. She holds an MBA and a Bachelor's of Arts in African American Studies. In her most recent endeavor, she became an international best-selling author for the anthology Intention, the Deconstructing Grit collection. In her chapter, I Choose Me, she shares a glimpse into her journey from trauma to triumph. She hopes her story will inspire others to remember that your past doesn't define you. Who you are becoming is a lesson and joy in the journey, and that you have the power of choice. So, choose yourself. Shayla enjoys spending time with her family and friends, reading, shoe shopping. I feel like you and Daniel. Yes. Shayla enjoys spending time with her family, friends, reading, traveling. She resides in St. Louis County with her husband, Reverend Gil Ford, and their son, Isaac. So amazing, right? So I'm going to first start with Danielle. And the first question is, how do you define the elements of your own path in your current role? Meaning, what do you find as your unique purpose, actions, and what do you focus on each day?
Well, first, thank you all for coming. I'm really excited to be here. You know, for me, when I think about my path, what I share with people and what Allison shared in my bio is that I help companies at transition points scale for growth. I help companies at transition points scale for growth. And I do that by solving hard problems. Now that sounds really neat and really succinct, but I will tell you my career has been anything but. I just took the opportunities that came my way. So it wasn't that I started out saying, let me work with companies at transition points. I just said, yeah, that looks like a neat opportunity. Let me do that, right? And it wasn't until the benefit of almost 20, 25 years of hindsight where I went, oh, that's what I was doing, right? So if you look at my path, I've worked in investment banking, I've worked in hard discount grocery, I'm in a community bank, I've worked at casinos. Like, people look at me and go, I don't know what to do with you, right? They don't know what to do with my path. And so I had to help people and go, I work with companies at transition points to help them scale, and I do that by solving hard problems. And when I looked back, I went, and that's what gets my juices flowing, right? When you talk about purpose, early in my career, purpose wasn't a big deal for me. My definition of success really was the size of my paycheck. That was my sole definition of success. What is the size of my paycheck? And that's how I was measuring not only my career success, but also my self-worth. It wasn't until kind of later in my career that I went, I spend way too much time doing what I do to not feel good about it. And that was, and again, no hate to anyone that's in the casino industry. I still have many colleagues that are in there. But I would say I needed to come home and literally and figuratively take a shower. Because it was, casinos, everyone's smoking all the time, right? Like, you would come home, and I was heading up marketing for like a $300 million casino, and I got people who gambled to gamble more. And I didn't feel good about that. And when I juxtapose that with what I do today, I am so proud to talk about what we do. I am so proud of the work that we do. And I'm at Midwest Bank Center, and my boss laughs at me because he's like, you bring in a lot of referrals. I was like, I'm just talking to people, right? Like, I just talk to people because I am proud of what we do. And I think when you're proud of what you do, you get to talk to people about it. So the purpose is, I have 2 young kids. I want St. Louis to be a regional leader. I want St. Louis, I want my kids to be able to find really good gainful employment here and not have to go to Chicago, not have to go to a coast. And I feel like the work that we do and the work that I do is helping set that up, right? So that's kind of the purpose. And then when you talk about what do I uniquely bring to the table, I think that's harder. But for me, as I think about if I think about what do I uniquely bring, from an actionable standpoint, I bring this depth and breadth of experience from all of those different things that I didn't know what I was doing. I was just taking the next opportunity. And I help say, okay, how do we prioritize and scale? Because at the beginning of my career, does anyone remember, and you have to be of a certain age, but does anyone remember that cereal commercial that said, give it to Mikey, Mikey will eat it? Yeah. Okay, so we're getting, it was, in the beginning of my career, it was give it to Danielle, Danielle will do it. Give it to Danielle, Danielle, like, I was, anything you wanted to give me, I was like, yep, give it to me. It wasn't until later in my career when I started prioritizing and I started saying no and I started setting boundaries that I got really laser focused on being able to help companies scale and being able to really get to the root of that problem and say, okay, we're going through a merger. We're doing a leverage buyout. We brought in a new CEO and we really want to scale. What is at the root? And when you strip away everything and start saying, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to do that. But we're going to focus on this because we're really good here. That's when I started seeing more success. So I think that's...
Yeah. I have a quick follow-up question. You know, you said in the beginning of your career, and probably a little farther in, you were like, give it to you. How did you set yourself apart so that they would do that?
I was a workhorse. I just was a workhorse and I got it done.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I think the difference is early in my career, I was being given projects that I could do by myself. Right? So I would run through brick walls, right? And I would get it done. Didn't matter if I had to stay up till 2 a.m. I didn't have kids, I didn't have a husband. Give it to Danielle. Danielle will do it. What I learned, and I will tell you it's probably in my early 30s, was that I couldn't get the job done, what I needed to, without elevating others. Without helping coach and train and mentor and lead and change. It was a big paradigm shift for me to go, okay, I can't do that. I have to hire really good, smart people, help set the vision, and let them run.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so Nisha, I'm going to ask you the same question because each of our paths are so unique. How do you define the elements of your path? And, you know, what talent sets you apart? And how do you incorporate helping into your life?
So first of all, really excited to be here tonight, and it's lovely to see this group of ladies and connect with you all. I had to sit down and think about this last night, like the acronyms of P.A.T.H are brilliant to put that together in a word that talks about your journey. So first of all, congratulations to that. Starting with purpose, so I truly feel like human beings on this planet, a true purpose for everyone is truly to evolve and to grow and to learn. First of all, we have to do that. In order to accomplish so many other things, we have to commit to evolving and growing. That cannot stop. So sort of taking that as the baseline, then what is each one of our unique purposes? And for me, I would say without a doubt, I am a diehard champion of the people that I believe in. I feel like that is what I wake up for every day, is to be an advocate for people, and then sometimes products, unpaid for at times. If I believe in something, then I will back it with everything that I have, whether or not it's part of my job or, and you do that at work, you do that at home, you do that with your friends, your neighbors, and so that truly is my purpose. And it took me a bit to think about, like, how do you distill this? I think it's a good exercise for everyone to sit down and say, if someone asked that question, how would you just say it in a few words? And I asked my 12-year-old son, hey, what would you say about mom? Mom, you're a cheerleader. I was like, okay, I have to find a more nicer way to say that, but truly.
That's a good one.
And I thought, yeah, that's right. So that is a very big part of who I am. And then the left side of my brain, I am an obsessive problem solver. I live to simplify. And that is the other thing, is how do we, every day, at home, at work, better the experience, right? And I feel like that's why we're here, to better the human experience. Everything we do, the reason why I'm here, you are here, is so that we can better the human experience. It's very much, I feel like it is a shared purpose. You might not look at it like that. But yeah.
I have a follow-up then to that. How do you, with that passion to better the human experience, how do you communicate that and advocate for that inside your workplace?
It's a feeling, and yes, there is a lot of communication involved, but you have to practice being an advocate, because it isn't, I think your teams, your people need to know this is a leader who has your back no matter what, and it truly is one interaction at a time. I believe in the magic of human connection, I really do. And and it truly is one interaction at a time. I think if you mean it, then it comes without effort, which I would like to think everyone means it, but sometimes you have to be intentional about it. But it truly is every interaction at a time when things are not going well. Who's the bringer of the bad news, or who's the person who comes in and says things are not going the way they're supposed to, but yet we will get there because I believe in you. And so I truly think it's through behavior.
Yeah.
It's through interaction.
Through the power of connection, we met.
Right.
Yeah, that's how we met. We met at a leadership luncheon, I guess, at Edward Jones, and it was like done, connected. Like, you're my friend for life. I don't know if you knew that at the time. But you were hiking. Connection.
I love that.
Good point. Yeah, I was like and you, and then I've known her, so I was like, listen, connections. I love it. Okay, so same question. Just how do you define that element? You know, of your path and your purpose, and how do you incorporate it into your role?
Well, I'll start out like everyone else. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. When I think about purpose, I think about what is the thing that I would get up and do every day if I was not paid to do it, right? Like my career life. And what's wonderful about what I get to do now is I'm doing that. I'm living my purpose. And you said it in the intro, but part of my personal tagline is I equip individuals to lead, in particular women, where they live, learn, work, play, and worship. That's everywhere. Wherever you are a leader, and I want to help you to amplify, elevate your voice, your skill set, what you bring to the table, and what you're called to do. You're right, I believe all of us are here to evolve and to connect with other humans, so you have to figure that out for yourself. And so my purpose is to live that out every day. And so I like that you asked, what are the actions, what are the talents, and how do I help? The daily actions are really being in tune with the women that I encounter, women and girls. Okay, so those are my people. I love everyone, but women and girls, I'm like, if you ask me to do something for women and girls, unless there's something else going on, the answer is always yes, right? So I am committed to ensuring that my actions daily are aligned with the things that I value and the people who mean the most to me, and the people that I know that I'm called to serve, right? And so when I think about my talent or my skills or my gifting, I'll share this. It's not pretty, but my trauma helped prepare me for the work that I currently do. The reason why I want to help girls and women succeed is because the statistics of what I experienced growing up, I should have been in jail, I should have been prostituting, I should have been a drug addict, I should have been dead by now. But I chose not for that to define me. And so I'm always thinking about, well, how do I use my gift? How do I use what I learned from the trauma? It doesn't define me, but what did I learn from it, and how can God use that to help me to connect with other women? And so for me, yes, there's other things that I do well. I don't do tech stuff, but I love data, I love information, I love connecting dots, I like connecting people. I like figuring out something and then simplifying it and giving it back to somebody else, right? And so that's the other way that I use those talents. But ultimately, when I think about it, it's about helping others to find their gifting, to find their calling. And so the string that's always been throughout my career in nonprofit has been human and civil rights was my first stop. Human services, so like an organization that did services for women and girls, and now at Focus St. Louis, human development. Humans are the common denominator, but when I think about the audience that I'm most excited about to serve, it's girls and it's women. And some of those women are in the room tonight. They know who they are, so thank you for coming.
And also a follow-up question.
Okay.
So that's hard to move from trauma to triumph to choosing you. So how did you and how are you waking up every day being your own champion?
Good question, because some days it's not easy. Some days I'm like, I just want to pull the sheets back over my head. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to talk to anyone. And I take that as the ebbs and flows and flow of life, right? Life is lifing all of us. But what I remember is that, my faith in God and Jesus Christ in particular has helped me to overcome so many things. And I have to remember that I'm more than a conqueror and that I'm an overcomer. I have to remember that I have the mind that allows me to think beyond the situation I might currently be in and really see something different. I have the ability to speak life and create the existence that I say that I want for myself. So I'm speaking life. So when I have those moments, I say, okay, you can't have a pity party. You can stay there for like 2 minutes, get yourself up, go take a shower, go listen to some music, go do something, right, that affirms me. And so there's affirmations all over my house. All over. In the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the living room, in my car, on my phone. I'm always sharing quotes and positive things with others because I'm like, I have to speak it first to myself and then to others. So my faith, and then saying I have to speak life over myself, and then I speak life to others. That's what I think helps me get up and keep going.
Where's that notebook? Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to start with Manisha. Like, as you grew into your current role, and knowing your journey to it, and possibly to America, what obstacles did you face, and how did you overcome them to get to where you are today?
Yeah, such a great question. So I'm currently leading global marketing, operations and technology, but I'll be in this role for just a year in November. So I sort of grew up in technology, and then very recently made a pivot, not intentionally, but it was a bit of a tap on the shoulder. I will say though that growing up in India and just coming here when I was 21, I came to California first, and at the time, I would say rather ignorant and naive in terms of understanding the challenges that I might face going to a whole new country. So it was, the journey in itself was interesting. It was, and really I have a lot of positive, I have so much to be grateful for, really along the way. But a lot of it was figuring out as you go, but just always having the attitude of jump in and figure it out later. The kind of challenges, if I tell you stories, you're going to laugh because I will tell you stories. So when I left India, I'm talking back in 2000, cell phones they were there for a few years. Leaving a voicemail was not a thing, believe it or not. It is a bit of a shock. It's like, wait, now there's a beep, and now you have to start saying something. I know you all going to go home and laugh about this, but that's such a small thing. And I would speak extremely fast English. If you think I speak fast now, another level fast, right? It was frustrating because I would have to write down what I'm going to say, and then if I didn't get it right and I hung up, it's like, oh, shoot. That did not come out right. And I love to look back and laugh about this, but back then I didn't. It's like, okay, we're just gonna practice, and I believe in the power of practice. That was just one, and never mind because you grow up speaking English, but spoken English is very different than reading textbooks, and so it's been a fun ride, I will say, but it has it's not without just this feeling that I have to keep going forward, and I will learn it and I'll figure it out, and I got a lot of help along the way. So I know you asked me a very career specific question, but it was weaved into my career journey. It was just really coming here, working for a bit. It was the .com bust, so I couldn't really quickly find a visa. And so it's like, I'm going to go back to school and go to my grad school. And I went to UMSL, and great school. I have a lot of love for that institution. wanted to quickly finish because I wanted to start working, you know. And all of that, it was just a lot of new things to face. And so, yeah, not roadblocks, but challenges. And whoever gave me the visa will get my job, which happened to be BJC Healthcare. They were phenomenal. But yeah, there's a lot to figure out. And I think just kind of looking back, very grateful for just having an open heart and open mind to learning and trying and practicing. So,
how are you coaching others? I know you've had the opportunity of mentoring and directing and having a team of others throughout your career. How do you coach and instill that wisdom into them to keep going and overcome obstacles?
Yeah. I will say to that, I think every journey is unique, and I think career can be a lonely journey. It truly, because no one truly knows what you're going through in that moment. And so I always say, like, figure out what works and what doesn't work for you, because you truly are your own champion. You know, there are so many people that will tell you, you know, hey, try this, try that, and you can, but I realize, like, even in my journey, that I don't always know the right questions to ask, and so then you are spending time with people, which you should, but time spent with yourself, reading the books, evolving, understanding your patterns. The biggest, the best thing that one can do for themselves is, in fact, figuring yourself out and understanding what works and what doesn't work for you, and go from there, because there can't be a single mentor that will have the answers, and it takes a long time. I'm not saying that coaching and finding mentors is great, but it is exhausting and it does take time. And so, you know, invest in kind of being your own mentor at times, and books are just amazing. But yeah, figuring out what works for you, because your journey is unique.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I appreciate that. So Daniel, same question. As you've grown, you know, and elevated throughout your career into the position that you have, what are some of the obstacles that you've faced, and how did you overcome them?
For me, I will start off by saying I truly believe if you're not falling, you're not trying. I think that sometimes I was always the kid that wanted to be the straight A student, and that kind of follows through different aspects of my life. So you have to be okay with failing sometimes and stumbling sometimes. For me, the expression I use is don't do anything stupid. Like, don't get yourself fired, right? Like, don't do anything so stupid you're going to get yourself fired, but know that failure is part of that evolution. The biggest stumbling block for me was really navigating the politics. So that doesn't come naturally for me. It's and as you progress in your career, it becomes less about getting the job done and more about how you get the job done and the relationships that you build. So for me, I recognized that was a gap, and I took steps to close the gap. So I have an executive coach. I have a council of people that I trust, my sister, my husband. There are people that I know are going to tell me when, no, you're misstepping, right? Like, I trust that they have nothing but my best interest in heart. And so that was my biggest stumbling block. And when I kind of recognized that was a big gap for me, particularly as I wanted to elevate my career, I took steps to, and it's something I still work on, but I'm a lot better today than I was before. So,
Can you speak into, you know, just to be very candid and honest, speak into some of those politics and how you overcame them? Not that anyone deals with politics or anything at work.
I think that there are times when and again, I work with companies at transition points. So things are shifting, things are moving, right? And when you've got people that have been there a while and things are shifting, they're already a little uneasy. And then sometimes I would go, but there's the answer. But there's the answer. But I didn't walk people through and go, what do you think? How would you approach this? And when you help people kind of get there on their own, they buy into it, it's a better answer, right? Because you've got other people's perspective. And understanding, you know, when I was earlier in my career, I came in, got things fixed, and then left a lot. So I didn't have to deal with the collateral damage that I had created, right? Like I came in, I got it done, and then I left. I've been at my role now 5 years. My previous role was 6 years. When you realize that it's a marathon and not a sprint, when you realize that you're going to be working with these people for years, you tend to approach it a bit differently. So those were some of the things that I had to come to, that it's not necessarily about going, but that's the right answer. It's how do we get there as a team and get to the best answer.
Yeah. So another follow-up. As you're getting others to get on board with you, how are you ensuring that you're also being seen in that to advocate for yourself for promotions?
Oh boy. I will tell you that's never been a problem for me.
Okay, that's good.
I'm loud. I advocate. I was the one that probably had to learn not to raise my hand versus I'm still the one in a room that I coach myself to not speak. I do. I will now in a room be like, I'm not going to speak until 4 other people have spoken.
Smart.
So that wasn't a problem for me. But I know it is for other people. So if that's for somebody else, maybe coach yourself. I'm going to push myself to put myself out there, right? Like I have to hold myself back. If you're on the other opposite end, maybe you have to go, and I'm going to speak in the first 5 minutes. Or I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's great. So same question. As you've grown into your career and championed, and now you're in this awesome position, what obstacles did you overcome?
I'll be honest, sometimes the biggest obstacle is me. Because I wouldn't bet on myself. Even though I'm like, I'm choosing me, I'm doing this thing, there's still times where you're like, does this make sense? Is this the right opportunity? Should I be pivoting now? Should I go after that other thing that everybody else tells me? And so I love what you said, Manisha, that you have to spend time with you to understand clarity about your own purpose and the things that are important to you. So I'm like, I've been on the trajectory and have been promoted often in all organizations pretty quickly, pretty rapidly. And then I get right like here, and then I'm like, yep, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not because I'm afraid to go next level. It's because I'm like, each time I advance, I move further away from the people that I want to touch day to day. And I'm like, oh, I'm behind the computer. Oh, we just had this big grant and this big audit and this. And I'm like, but I'm not talking to people. And that's because that's my heart. I always have to pivot back to that. So I was an 11-year career with the YWCA, which is an organization whose mission is to serve women. That's an alignment. But as I moved up, I'm like, I'm doing PQI. Okay, love data, love doing employee surveys and engagement, making sure that I'm on the team to help us be accredited. But it's not, the fulfillment is not there because I'm numbers behind a computer and, you know, correcting people's mistakes. And I can coach a team to success and to be great, but I was like, I'm seeing less and less of that. So I had to stop and say, what is important to me? So when I did the pivot to come to Focus, and it was not to run the women's program, although it was on my sights, but someone else had the position. I'm like, how can I help her be successful? I'm not gonna try to bump her out. But I took over a youth program because I'm like, at the end of the day, young people succeeding is also part of my passion, right? And so people are like, that was the craziest move ever. And I'm like, but I have clarity. So you don't need to understand my vision as long as I understand my vision and my calling and I'm walking it out. And every day I wake up feeling like this is the work I'm called to do, and if you didn't pay me, I'd still show up. So I had to be clear about that, right? But when I think about some of the things I've had to overcome, sometimes In one organization, there was lots of transition. And while I could help successfully transition, shutting things down, also I learned was not something I was happy about. So it's like, oh, we need to sunset this. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a whole thing to shut something down. And then it was like, here's the next thing. I said, I'm not your shut down, turn it down person. I really am a person who builds. That's why I describe myself as an architect. And I'm like, if I'm not building or creating a model that then can scale or help other people be successful, I don't want to do it. So I know I'm a builder. I know I'm an uplifter. I know I'm an elevator. If you give me work that does not allow me to do that, it's really hard. So I had to work through those transitions and still figure out ways that I could build people in transitions that were hard. How do you tell a 15-member team you're all going to lose your jobs because we've decided to sunset the program? And then all the families attached to that. What did I do? I went back to my room and said, okay, I need to put together like a 3, 6, 9 month transition plan. And the first thing I must do is communicate with my team what is happening before the word gets out, and then communicating with our families that we were serving what is happening. And then what did I do? Took a risky move. My company had decided who they wanted to shift that work to, but I knew the families and the staff were like, that organization's not a good move. So I went to a CEO of another organization. I said, there's an opportunity coming up. Nobody knows about it. I think you should talk to my CEO. They did. I helped that organization transition almost all of the staff except 2. One chose to leave because of health reasons. The other had a different opportunity. I helped the district. This was a youth program in a school district in the city, or in the county, excuse me. And I helped them draw the plan to talk to the parents, to talk to the staff, to talk to the new organization, and transition it out in a way that I felt I can hold my head proudly and say that I was a part of this. So if we're going to close it down, it's going to be like the best, most efficient close down that you've ever seen, and everyone's leaving home. And I was able to do that. So taking on things that are important to me or align with my value, helping people is a value, doing things with integrity is a value. And so as long as I can look myself in the mirror at the end of the day, those are the things that I've had to be challenged with and consistently overcome. And I've always been clear, if someone dare ask me to compromise that, I know my decision is to walk. Because I can't be in a place where my values or my faith is compromised, because it's that important and essential to me, and other people don't get to direct that. You can tell me all the other things that I'm supposed to do because it's the job description or it's the expectation, but you can't tell me to compromise my integrity or to do things that will harm other people. I absolutely will not.
I recently read something that said, if you're not creating your own career path, someone will do it for you, and they will do it to benefit them or their company, and not you.
Yes.
And so it sounds like maybe you learned that pretty quick. If not, like, how did you decide, like, this is my purpose and I'm not going to deviate, or did that evolve?
I believe it evolved over time, because when I was in college, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I want to be a business major. Maybe I want to be an entrepreneur. And then I did African American history. that was just because there were interesting things happening in the business school, and so at the time, while I like competition, the level of rawness and competition and aggression happening, and I'm like, you're my classmate, and you just sabotaged my prototype and model for the class. I was just like, that level of competition doesn't feed me, again, because I'm about building. So I was like, we could do this together and we both can succeed. I don't get it. You want to like knock me out because you want to step over me. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to step back from that. So I went a different path, and I thought maybe I can be a college professor and like lecture. Maybe that's what I want to do. And then when I got into a nonprofit and I started doing work with women and their children, I was like, this is the work that I think I want to do. I just want to help. Like, I knew I couldn't be a classroom teacher. Like, I don't have enough patience for that, but I want to help people learn and grow. And so I continued to stumble upon things that would allow me to call forth my gifts in a way that was constructive and helpful, and that I would have a level of success that I was like, I feel like I'm making a contribution, right? And so I don't know that I really had, people were like, how did you get here? And I was like, I don't know, because it was just me taking chances. It was me saying yes to the things that were in alignment with me, not necessarily you go do this or this sounds really good for you. It was always like, is this in alignment with the things that are important to me? If it is, then I can say yes to that. So I would always be positioned for a yes if it was in alignment. And if it wasn't, then I'm like, shut the door, or tell me no, or show me something so that I know that if it's not for me, like, stop now, because I don't want to waste my time or someone else's time.
You said that you stumbled upon them. Do you truly feel that you stumbled upon them, or they came to you because you were open to them?
They came to me. My faith says that all things happen for a reason. And so you have to be willing to, trust that. And even when it looks uncertain, or even when fear raises its head, you have to say, I trust that the path that's been, put in front of me is the path that I'm supposed to take. And if it's not, or when the time changes, that I'll know that it's time for me to pivot. So there was some places that I had friends that left before me, and they're like, come on, you should get a different job. Why are you still here? And I'm like, because I have not been released from this place. I'm supposed to be here. And so when I'm told to go, it'll be clear as day. Like, the writing will be on the wall. Things will begin to happen. And if I take no, then I'll know what to do. And that's never failed me.
That's awesome. That's good. Yeah. All right. So I think in our final discussion point before we open it up, I'll start with Manisha. What would you tell your younger self? Just graduating.
For her, I write an essay every day. Again, every journey is different, and so this is very kind of like what I would say to my younger self. Not everyone truly appreciates or gets what you get to the table. It's true. You can be with people that you grow with, and then there's people that you thrive with. And I think both types of combinations are important for the journey. But if you don't get, especially earlier on, I think, and maybe even later, if you don't get the validation you're looking for, or the approvals, or because there are times when we want to know, hey, is this sounding right? Is this looking good? Do not, it's such a cliche statement, but do not tie your worth to somebody else's opinion of you, because they might be and they might not be wrong. It's just they're looking for something different. And the day that you find your fit, it's going to be magical, because it's the same you, and yet someone else is thinking, wow, this is amazing. And just 2 days ago, it's the same you, and they thought, well, yeah. So again, there are people you grow with, and people teach us all the time how to be and how not to be. And so I would tell my younger self to just definitely not to take comments and feedback personally. I think the less you can take things personally and just look at it objectively and move on, the better it is. There are a lot of other things I would say to my younger self. I can't think of anything at the moment. Maybe the Q&A will come up, but I think that's a big one. Yeah.
Danielle, what about you?
For me, I would say it's a marathon, not a sprint. Enjoy the peaks and breathe through the valleys, because you're not always going to be on top, and the valleys don't last forever. And date wisely. So I think probably the single most impactful career decision that you can make is if you choose to have a partner, who that partner is. And I lucked out and got an amazing partner, but I didn't marry until I was 35. And I had I tried really hard to make guys that didn't fit. So date wisely, and date somebody who's going to be a good partner, because I wasted a lot of time. Guys that just weren't, good fits.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you spoke earlier about how you ask for feedback from that person and from others, your
Yeah.
sister and others. How do you approach that?
So for me, with my husband at night, after we put the kids to bed, we just have a download, right? Like, we have a glass of iced tea, and we just download. And I really trust and appreciate his feedback. And then my sister, she's in healthcare IT, but is very successful and has a very different perspective. And when I get into sticky situations, I just pick up the phone and I say, hey, you got 5? I need some help navigating. And again, I have a career coach intentionally because I have to talk through things. But one thing my team and my colleagues have learned about me is I will say I need to sleep on it. I do not make any major decisions. And that's my I need a pause. Because I have learned that for me, my first reaction may not be the best. And so the way I buy myself time is to say, thank you for letting me know. I need to sleep on this. And anyone who has worked with me for any length of time knows I'm not having a conversation after that. And I'll go, I need to sleep on this. And I inevitably come back with a better, more thoughtful, more thought out response because I paused and said, let me sleep on it. And when I'm sleeping on it, I'm then often going to my counsel and going, hey, I need a little help here. And, they do the same thing for me. And I don't always take their advice, but at least they give other perspectives, which is helpful. So I think for me, find the people that you trust and that you trust have your best interests at heart and will call you on your BS, but also say, you're not wrong here, right? Like you need to stand your ground on this one a little bit.
That's awesome. Yeah. Before we get to you, I have a secondary question for all of you because I know a lot of us have navigated, looks like a little bit of time in our career and some are in the beginning of our career. I'm curious, and we'll start here. In your career, what do you think has changed the most, like in your industry or in your role, and how are you adapting to it now?
Interesting question. So when COVID hit, understand that my work is in-person led trainings. COVID hits, we all go home, and organizations like ours across the country were shutting their doors and saying, we'll be back in 3 weeks, and some of them, their doors never opened again. And so I thought, what are we gonna do? And I heard of an organization that's in a national organization that we're a part of, say we're gonna put on this virtual webinar. We're gonna talk to you about some of the things that we're doing, and hopefully it will help us move forward if we're choosing to. So the thought of virtual, the thought of being on camera, the thought of like all of that, I was like, I'm not doing it. And then I was like, okay, just give it a try. So I get on the webinar and I'm taking copious notes. I still have that notebook. I've got notes upon notes, like everything anybody said, I'm like, I got it. And they started talking also about just things that they had learned that would help them be, how do you keep folks engaged? What's the way to set this up? All these things. After I did that, I went back, called my boss, and I said, oh, we got this, we could do this. And she's like, what? I was like, we could go virtual right now. Like all we need to do is, content needs to be, redone. We have to really think about how we're gonna engage folks. We have to make it authentic. We have to just do some things, but we can do it. And they're like, okay. And I was like, we already had Zoom, but we were using Zoom for conference calls. We weren't using it for video conferencing. And I'm like, I think we just need to like take a couple of, sessions and do it. And so for 2 years, I ran our Women in Leadership program virtually, and people were like, I don't know, can we just wait? And I'm like, wait till when? We didn't know when the end was gonna be. And I said, if you feel more comfortable, sure, wait. But I guarantee you I'm working my best to create an experience that you really won't know the difference except that you're gonna, like, we're signing in. Well, we run it and people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we're virtually connected this quick, that we went deep that quick, that you kept us engaged, and that you modified content so that we weren't like water hosing it down, right? And so I was like, oh, we can do this. And we even built a digital campus and did all kinds of other things. And I was like, oh, do we want to go further? We're not ready to go further, but I'm like, digital courses. I was like ready. I'll be the dean of the digital campus. Put myself out there. We didn't do that, but so that was something to overcome. And that was something different. So really being versatile in human development or leadership training, and also making sure that you're not just doing what worked 10 years ago for women and just regurgitating it. COVID changed everything for everyone, and I'm like, what do women need now? I kept coming back to, if it's not relevant, I'm not doing it. We had a lot of things that they were like, you need to do this, and I'm like, that's not me, I can't wear that. And I'm not gonna be authentic. And if I'm not authentic, it's not gonna work, because I have to be me for these women to understand that they have to be themselves too. And I'm their model. I'm the person that they're looking to, like, well, tell us how to do this, or tell us. And I'm like, but if I'm not authentic and I'm just reading something and just doing it, it's not gonna make an impact. And fast forward to today, we're back into in-person. It's going really well. And we keep having women subscribe to us to say, we want to know more. I had an info session earlier this year with like 175 women on it, saying, I'm interested, right? And so you have to understand where you're at, and you have to evolve and grow, so that if you want to be the best at your craft, that you are doing what you need to do to be your best, so being yourself champion, so that I can champion for other women.
And you skipped professor, you went straight to dean.
Right, I was like, yeah, we're gonna leave, forget that. I want to do some other stuff.
I love it. So you guys are both in the marketing and technology space. So I'm just curious too, like, what did you see, in your career? What has been the biggest shift?
Yeah.
There's many.
I will definitely say I appreciate what you said so much, because I think being open to learning, and we got massive adoption for platforms. Like, we could have all been doing so many things hybrid, and I'm sure there are people that would not prefer that at all, but I'm just saying access to others so fast, so quickly, without having to leave your home meant a lot. Like, I made so many connections in COVID, and I think this, again, going back to having that open mind, because things are changing very fast, right? COVID taught us that. And I'm in tech, and I started as a developer, and they're changing things on you all the time. But the point of doing what we do is not technology, it is to serve the customers. And the more the customers are open to adopting new things, the better products can be put out. Because in the end, it is all about adoption and people actually using it. So, and then other than that, in my career, I've been moving from being an individual contributor to starting to run a team, going from having a team to starting to have multiple teams, going from there to, I think those transitions obviously were big ones, but underlying all of it was just kind of keeping up with technology and just having that mindset of, okay, it's not technology, it's the customers we care for, how do we bring the two things together and still make sense, and still let them be excited about what's coming out the door and be ready to use it. It's always a changing world in marketing and tech, so yeah.
How did you pivot yourself from being that contributor out of the weeds, letting go and leading?
It was very early on, actually, in my career. I want to say my second year of joining the workforce. It was more a coordinator role. I think I love to work through others. And it's one of those people that always knows who's doing what, who do I have to call to get such and such done. To the point they say, just do this. Like, would you want to just do it? Because it seems like you're trying to do that already. And a lot of the shifts were, because it never was, this isn't my job. It's, well, I know someone who knows someone. Here's some things we can do, and here's how this could look. What do you think? I didn't answer that first question all the way about talent. It's hard to quantify, but I think my true talent is really vision for what's possible. And so, like, always just activating that seems like it carves out paths that I don't expect. But dreaming together of what this could be, which, you know, there isn't anything now, but it could be something else afterwards. And doing it together with people is, and then you bring in the tech in the mix, and now I'm in a marketing role, and I love it so much. Yeah.
That's great. So Danielle, what about you? What have you seen evolve the most and change?
For me, I started my career in investment banking, so pretty hardcore finance. And I was almost always the only woman in the room. And there weren't a lot of examples of any women that had what I would say. There were some women that had successful careers, but I didn't see anyone that I wanted to model my life after, right? The more holistic life. Fast forward to today, I am on an executive team of 10 members, and half of us are women.
Nice.
And I think it has changed, and I do think COVID changed a lot of this, but there used to be a lot of roles where you would have to do after dinner events or after work events, or you have to be at the office till 6 p.m. I am very good at saying I will do breakfast, I will do lunch, I will do coffee, but I'm not doing dinners. That I'm with my family. And I see other women that have those types of boundaries, and they're being more vocal about it. So one of my colleagues will be like, I'm out, I gotta go run dance practice at 4:30. I never saw that example when I was younger. Now I know her, and she's also on at 9:30, or but she's getting the job done. And I think as you see more women that are modeling a successful balance of not just successful careers, but successful lives, for me, that is the difference between the beginning of my career and today. I see a lot more women that are doing it successfully.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I'll circle back to the question I asked the other two. What would you tell your younger self starting out in her career?
3 things. Bet on yourself more. Like, don't discount yourself. Just stay true to who you are, right? So there was times, because of the trauma that I experienced and other reasons, where I was striving for perfection. I was striving to perform to get the validation externally. Because at work, regardless of what else was happening in life, I could always excel at work. So I kind of was a workaholic, like to the detriment of the things that I said were important to me, my family. In particular, one time my husband said, I think you're cheating on me. I'm like, how could you say that? Because I came from a family where there was extramarital affairs, and I'm like, there was a point where I didn't even want to get married. So for him to say that, I'm like, I'm married to you, and for you to say that, I said, who am I cheating on you with? He's like, your job. He was like, your job, you will make time for anything that has to do with work. You go to work, you come home, you go back to the office at home and work. Like, everything is about work. And I was like, ooh, like that hurt. That was like an ouch moment. And I said, okay, I need to shift, and I need people to help me to be more accountable. So for a little while, there was a few women. I don't know if I would call them my board of directors, but these were some women who I just put it out there and said, y'all, my husband said I'm cheating on him at work. And so I need to put some different boundaries around work. And when I come home, I can't, be thinking about work, talking about like all the things. And so for a few weeks, I was just checking in, or they text like, how you doing? Did you leave the office yet? And I needed that. I really needed that, because I was so looking for the external validation that I was worth it, and that I was meaningful, and that I was contributing. And I'm like, at work, I rock it, like all the time. So for me, just be who you are, trust yourself, and, learn to set those boundaries so that you can have a healthy life work harmony, right? And pace yourself and take care of you. Be good to you is what I would tell her, because she was running around doing all kinds of stuff that would tire me out at my age right now. I'm like, I gotta go to bed by 9 o'clock.
It's not easy. So I tell this story on myself to help highlight how far I've come, I was taking conference calls in labor. I was the woman that was taking conference calls in labor. And it was because I could control that. This labor thing, I was like, woo, what's gonna happen? But I knew I could manage the work. I knew I could do my job. So in between contractions, the beginning, I was on a conference call. My husband's looking at me going, you are insane. But I think you have to recognize when you kind of cross those boundaries and why, and then have people help you set them.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you, ladies. Like always, we open it up because I think this sparks some questions and just some curiosities maybe. This is a very authentic, courageous space. So does anybody have any questions? Don't be shy. Yes.
Did all three of you know that you were going to be leaders when you were young? Like, were you the leaders on the playground, or have you thoroughly surprised yourself now?
Other people tell me, or they look to me for advice. They think that I'm the leader. They think, like, that has been something that has been reflected back to me. And I was like, I didn't strive for that, but they sense that in me. Even other places, they're like, you're the person I'm supposed to talk to get the information. I'm like, I don't know. So people said that they sensed that from me, and I'm like, okay. To me, leadership it's not a title. It is really about the influence that I can have. And so if I'm able to positively influence someone else, then, like, yes, I'm a leader and I own that.
Yeah, so many ways to be a leader. I never thought of it that way growing up, but people always wanted to know what are you thinking about something, and I feel like maybe thought leadership came more naturally to me because I had a perspective. Mm-hmm. I had some ideas. I wanted to know what others were thinking, and so maybe that was the beginning of my sort of journey towards, and I love working with people, but I feel like you're still evolving, and the boss word is not the best that I attach to, and my team will always say, hey, you're more a friend. And it's like, I'm working on trying. but I think thought leadership was what I always thought, yeah, this is something that I can grow myself into, sure.
There's a Sheryl Sandberg quote that is somewhere along the lines of, I want every little girl that's told she's bossy to be told she has leadership skills. I was the little girl that got told a lot I was bossy.
We love that.
Yeah. I like that. Anyone else have a question? Anyone? Yes.
So what do you see as the biggest challenge moving forward in terms of the changes we've been through and what you're seeing coming next?
I'll speak to at least where I see things happening, not just in my sector, but all over. Maybe not in tech and where you all are at, but there's almost like I want to go back to what was normal, but normal wasn't working. And during COVID, we saw that there was so many more possibilities, but people want to go back to what's comfortable. And I think to be ready for the uncertainties that will come no matter what we call normal, something is always going to be the new normal, the next normal. And so how do you prepare yourself or other individuals to have an open mindset and trust themselves enough that whatever comes, if I fail, then I'm going to learn from it. If there's a new opportunity, I'm going to set myself up to take it or at least explore it. That's what I called myself doing when I'm like, I'm going to explore and see what they're doing on Zoom. Oh, I can do that. I got this, right? And so I think that's part of it, like not resting on our laurels or going back to what was comfortable, but being willing to be open and learn and put yourselves in positions as individuals, as organizations to do the uncomfortable, innovative, creative thing, no matter what sector you're in, is my 2 cents to that question.
Yeah, I think very similar answer. I will say that I'm surprised now how I look and the things that I want that I thought I would in my career maybe about 5 years ago, it's starting to be different. I'm feeling like I'm wanting not the same things but different in the sense that there are times when I'm like, am I feeling I'm compromising on where I want to go, because I'm very happy where I am at. And I think the challenge truly is to to stay current, to stay relevant, and just grow as far as you want to, and not to feel the pressure, because I am surprising myself at the changes that I am feeling emotionally and just aspirationally. Corporate ladders don't seem that attractive at some point anymore, because again, it's who do you work with that matters more. What you bring to the table mattered, but what's the impact now matters more. And just things, I'm just kind of going through a shift in my mind, and just really reevaluating what does next 10 years look like, so.
I think we're going through a lot of shifts. I think COVID caused a lot of people to reevaluate what they want. I think we're going through a lot of breaking of norms between generations. I think Gen Z has a completely different idea of what their life and their work looks like, and that's impacting how we as corporate leaders or entrepreneurs engage. I also think there's a lot of shifts happening within gender, and we think about dual career households, single career households, what do families look like? When I even think about when I was growing up, what that earning household looked like, and the structures and systems that were put into place, assuming that there was a parent at home that was running, or that was taking off, or that was, when the kid got sick, etc. That's all been blown up. And I'm not sure a lot of our corporate structures have caught up to that. I think they're catching up to that. But when I think about those that are sitting in the positions of power, when I think about the return to work mandate, and you've got some really smart people, the Jamie Dimons at JP Morgan, and there's like really smart people, but they all kind of look the same when they're saying we're gonna be back in the office 5 days a week. I think it will be interesting. I do think that COVID created a reset and a breaking of norms in a lot of different ways, and I don't think we've landed where we're going to land.
Well, and I'll say too, so from a talent standpoint, last year I would say kind of changed the game a little bit. It is very automated. It is AI. It is who do you know? It is a very different ballgame to attract the right candidate. Versus, when I started, it was like the biggest, prettiest ad in the paper. It was like, and you were the winner. But now last year changed the game completely. And I've been doing this for a very long time. But how we attract talent, and the talent that are coming or making a transition, it is about the experience that an organization offers that aligns with their purpose. And they have to be very prepared to communicate that and then deliver it. And to your point too, this generation, I have a junior in college, they're gonna rock the world a little bit. And I mean that in all the good ways and all the scary ways. This is so be ready. And I love her. I love you, honey. They are one of the first generations that they had a device the same time I did. They had wireless internet the same time I did. And guess what? They learned it a lot faster than I did. And they are inventing and recreating wheels faster than we are. They're also one of the first generations to go through school shootings and parental divorces and layoffs and wars. And they know all of it, all of the time. And then COVID hit. And again, they're doing intruder drills all of the time. So this is a generation that they know what they want. They're really smart. they're a little stressed out. But I think what's really going to be interesting is that companies understand and have grace around this generation when they're asking the why. And they're not asking the why to be defiant or rude. They're asking the why because nothing has ever been certain for them. And if you take the time as leaders to just say, this is why we're doing it, then they'll do it 10 times over and over. You just have to be prepared to, like, my generation of, you're tilted, Jim, I say how high, the end. Like, that's over. And they're creating boundaries, that generation, they know, like, this is when we're gonna work. They work hard. But they also know, like, guess what? I'm gonna have a life and a family. We're not. So I think it's just gonna be a generational shift, to your point. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
All right, well, hello.
Hi.
So, I really love everything you're saying, but what's very interesting, I feel like, as we talk about politics, is that you are supposed to know a little bit who you are, but know your worth, but then also show humility. And so as we get very conflicting feedback, yes, you don't want to accept all of it, how have all of you found that balance between knowing your worth by leading and then still having that humility to get where you are?
It's such a great question because exactly, we get a lot of opposing viewpoints and suggestions. The more people you talk to, the more they will tell you, try this, try that, and sometimes be bold, and other times listen, just be a good listener. So I will go back to just knowing what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and really and honing that in. I think there is only one Manisha Sherode. There is only one of us. There isn't another one, and so you just have to really kind of stick to who you are, and truly find those people that you thrive with, because when in doubt, those are the eyes you look into. But yeah, don't take everything with a grain of salt, and know what makes your uniqueness truly shine.
I heard a piece of advice that resonated with me, and it said, never take criticism from somebody that you would not go to for advice. And for me, that's a really good filter, because we do get feedback from lots of different areas. If you have a life that I look at and go, I want that. If you have attributes that I look at and go, I really respect. If I'm going to go to you for advice, or would, then I will take feedback. But if you're not in a position where I would go to you for advice, I kind of let the criticism roll off my back a little bit.
My response would be that I have to know who I am, and I have to be my authentic self no matter what, right? So I do, and I tell people, I'm like, take anything with a grain of salt, because I don't know where you're coming from, and I don't know if you have my best interest at heart. And so I will think, okay, well, is what they're saying true? Or is it true in this moment? Like those, I try to filter it, but I'm like, mostly I take it with a grain of salt. And then, but I have to know who I am, and I have to know my value, and I have to know what I authentically bring. And I also have to understand, how do I best, because my work is so people driven, how do I best meet people where they are so that I can walk along with them to where they say they want to go? I'm not trying to recreate mini Shaylas. I'm trying to recreate whoever you are, help you become whoever you were called to become, right? And so I have to balance or filter any feedback from, who am I? Where is this coming from? What might be that person's intention? And sometimes people's intention is not the best for you. But then also remembering I do bring something to the table. And not that I can't still be humble as a leader, but recognize what I bring. The things that people always come to you, that's part of that value add that you bring. And if you don't understand that, how can you advocate for yourself or for your team if you don't understand the value add? I'm a thought leader. I get stuff done and I get it done well. Part of my perfectionism that I'm overcoming, right? And I know that I can rally people around and be an early adopter to something new that's coming and changing. And then I can help understand how people can see themselves and own it and then leverage their strengths. I know what I bring. Now, does everybody always acknowledge or value what I bring? Sometimes when it works in their best interest. But then other times they're like, I don't really want to hear what you have to say. And I'm like, that's okay. I also know that I'm an entrepreneur. So we talked a little about entrepreneurs, but I'm inside the company bringing the new ideas or saying, have we tried this? Have we thought that? Because I feel I like the security of being within an organization. And I'm like, if you're looking for someone that has that skill set, then I'm it. So I get a little bold and cocky when I've had to have interviews because I'm like, what are you looking for? And where do you want your organization to go? I will let you know how I can add value to that. But if you don't know, that's hard. You know, right? So you have to just understand what you bring, but you can still do that with humility. And I think if you know that you've made a mistake or an error or you've unintentionally done harm or hurt someone, own that and handle it quickly. Apologize. Acknowledge that you've made a mistake. I think people can respect that more than anything else, that, you know, like, I'm going to get the real deal. And I know that you're going to be honest and upfront with me. Or acknowledge if you've done a mistake and publicly fix it, right? So that others can be whole as a result of what could have been harm that you didn't intend to do. So to me, that's about humility and integrity and understanding the value that you bring.
And all that too, we do this with companies all the time. They come to us thinking they want to fill a role. And it's typically not right. And what we do is we always ask the basic question, what is the purpose of the role? You know, what does that role a person need to do to move the business or position forward? Like, what will it need to have accomplished in a year in order to, you know, justify the role? What gaps are there? So I think when you're in your role, if you identify those things, you know, what is the purpose of my role? What do I need to do to move the business forward, our department forward? And what do I bring to the table and silence the imposter syndrome? And then while doing that, you know, I come across sometimes very assertive. And I forget that I'm also, you know, have humor and a love for others. And so you sort of have to, you know, to your affirmations, like, remind yourself of that every day and bring that to the table, and then you're advocating for others. And when you advocate for others, everybody tends to lift up. So yeah. So great, ladies, we're at time. I would love to do a quick picture. Thank you so much to our